All right, let's implement some object inheritance. So open in front of you, I've got the shell. I've got the user.py file, which once again was a part of the previous lecture. Make sure you download that. And I've got that open. Now, this is the user class. It's got 4 functions in it. It's got the init function, the initialize function, and then 3 custom ones that I've thrown in there. Now, if I create a new user, let's just call it U1, this will be of type user. I got to give it some information. This is going to have a name, so just put myself in there. All right, and I'll say U1 dot, wait for it. All right, so the normal base user, this is the functionality that a user has. I can get the full name, I can perform user login, and I can perform user work. Well, let's get the full name. I'll give that a double click. We'll close, open, close the parentheses, and there's the full name. Great. That's the user class. We're going to consider that the base class. Now, I'm going to hop back into here, and I'm going to define another class. So I'm going to bring in the class keyword. This one I'm going to call a super user. Now, the super user is going to have some of its own functionality. It's going to have an init function. We'll pass in the self. And then I'm going to pass that. We're not going to implement any functionality in there, but it's there. If we need to use it, we can start putting in some code there in a little bit. Now, let's see. It's also going to have, let's see. Well, we'll have one in here. We got user work up above. That's a part of the user class. But then we'll also create one here called super user work. All right, and that's going to contain the self as well. And let's just say it's going to print out performing super work. And it's super excited about it. All right, so now I've got this additional class here called super user that I can now consume. All right, let's try it out. I'm going to go ahead and F5. Let's create a super user. Let's call it SU1. And it's going to be equal to a super user. Now, when I open up the parentheses here, you can see that it doesn't have any information inside there. It's not asking me for first name or last name and so on like the user would ask me. It's just saying, okay, great. You want to be able to create a super user? Cool. I'll close the parentheses, hit my enter key. And let's say SU1 dot. Now what's going to be accessible to me? Ooh, super user work. So I can perform that function right there, but the super user should also be able to do everything that the normal user can do. I don't have that currently. So this is your inheritance. I want the super user class to inherit the functionality that the user class contains. Well, let me get back to my super user. The way that you perform inheritance inside of Python, you've got your class name. Right after the class name, I'm going to open up a parentheses. Here, I'm going to put a reference to the base class, in this case called user. So I've got the base class within what we call the derived class. Super user in this case is the derived class. It is inheriting functionality from the user class, from the base class. So now, if I save that, I go ahead and F5. We'll restart our shell window there. And let's create a new super user. We'll call the super SU1. It's going to be equal to a super user. Now, I'm still not getting F name and L name and all of that stuff there, but I'll close that. I'm going to hit my enter key. And now if I do SU1 dot, let's see what we get here. I've now got full functionality of not just the super user that was defined in the super user class, but I've also got everything that a normal base user can do as well. Get the full name, user login, and user work. It's all there. We're now inheriting the functionality from a base class. Super easy to do. You've got multiple classes there. all you need to do is inform your derived class what or where it's going to inherit the functionality from. Once you've done that, you've now got everything that base class has.